The film I'm going to be reviewing today is Skyfall, which came out yesterday, and I actually saw it on the day of release. I'm going to give a bit of history on this film. Um, it was really packed out. It was ridiculously packed out. I didn't realise that it drew crowds like Harry Potter or Twilight does, but apparently so. When I went to see it, where I went to see it, I don't live in London, but there was a sort of promo going on for it. It was really weird. There wasn't really many people around or anything, but there was four girls, very beautiful girls, in long black dresses, basically showing off these cars, these sports cars, and then there was a live band playing. It had a small crowd, and they were doing promo songs for Skyfall, some sort of rock song for Skyfall, and that was pretty cool to see. But unfortunately, I didn't really stay for the whole song or anything. I don't know how many songs they did because I had to go in and get a seat for the film, and there was a lot of people in the theatre, and it wasn't even the only screen that was playing the movie. They were playing it all night long. Honestly, like thousands of people must have seen it that night. It was really, really crazy. And today I went to see The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and in the cinema that I went in, which is a smaller branch, there were queues for Skyfall. So obviously, this film obviously attracts a lot of attention, and there's a reason for that. So yeah, a bit of history about my experience with James Bond. I've seen a couple of the films. I'm not a fan. I understand they're based on books. I'm not sure to what extent. I saw one or two the Pierce Brosnan movies. I think I've seen Casino Royale. I'm not really sure. I can't remember if I saw Quantum of Solace either, but I've definitely seen Skyfall. And usually with James Bond movies, I always kind of got confused. I'm not the kind of person who gets confused at films. Like, for example, things like Inception, Shutter Island, people get really like confused, like what the hell is going on. I don't get, I understand films pretty easily. So with James Bond, obviously in the past, the ones that I've seen, they've always been, packed full of characters, plot lines, subplot lines and stuff like that. And sometimes it got a bit, messy. So sometimes I didn't understand what was really going on. But so I kind of thought it was going to be like that with this one, but it really wasn't. So yeah, first I want to talk about the story. Basically, the story is about James Bond, and he's on a mission in Istanbul. And just a fun fact: the place where they filmed this chase scene in Istanbul is also the scene where there's a chase scene in Taken 2, which is another review, inshallah, that I'll be doing because I've seen it last week. Um, and yeah, basically, it opens with a chase scene in Istanbul, and James Bond is looking for someone who's got a list of something, and he ends up chasing the guy down who has this list, and it's a list of secret agents and their real identities. And his co-worker is this woman who accidentally shoots James Bond when she's trying to get the target. James basically falls off into this river. He stays, he heals in some like far off country somewhere, and then while he's gone, back at MI6, everyone thinks he's dead, sort of thing. So they sell all his stuff off. The woman who sort of directs his secret missions and stuff like that, she starts writing his obituary. And she's going out one day, and then all of a sudden, MI6, all her files are hacked. It's like it's meant to be impossible to do, sort of thing, and then the MI6 building basically blows up. So it's a sort of super secret, super terrorist sort of thing going on, and they all move down to a secret bunker. The MI6 base moves down to a secret bunker. So James Bond comes back, and he gets informed on what's going on. And basically he is saying, what was the whole thing about this list? The guy who I was fighting, he got away. And he's put through these tests to make sure he's fit for basically duty once again, and he fails them. But M tells him a lie, says that he did pass them, and he didn't really. Then he gets sent off on this mission to basically find the guy who stole this list, and he ends up discovering that the guy is working for someone who's this like employee or whatever. He ends up going to he talks to this like he sees this like Chinese woman whatever. He ends up going to this really 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 exclusive gambling place. It's really beautiful the way that scene was set out. He cashes in this chip. He talks to this Chinese woman, and basically she is like in the Macau sex trade sort of thing. She's like, oh please help me out. He gets on this boat where she's being taken to somewhere, and James says, oh, I want to know who you work for, who's behind the sort of, you know, this list being taken. And she said, oh, you don't want to be an employer, he's, you know, he gets what he wants, he's really bad. So her and him, they get sent off to this island, this like captives, and they get separated. James Bond meets this guy who's behind everything. He's like a super hacker. He does whatever he wants. He has so much control over everybody. He's called Silver or something. I can't really remember. And yeah, they basically the woman gets shot. James basically captures this big crime boss, and they hold him in detainment for a while, and then while they're trying to like decode his computer and everything like that, while they're decoding it, they activate this sort of escape route for the evil guy to get out of. And it's a whole like, you know, super secret cool whatever, because he's like, you know, this mind genius. He knew what was going to happen. He knew where the MI6 was going to relocate. He, you know, hacked into the system years and years before. And you find out that the reason why he's doing this is because he was once a part of MI6 as well, and betrayed him. Basically, she chose the mission over his life, and he bit into the cyanide pill. I assume that all the secret agents keep a cyanide pill in the back of their mouths. He bit into the cyanide pill to basically kill himself, so information couldn't be getting out of him. Unfortunately, he wasn't killed, but all his insides were rotted. All his like face was melted off, and it was really gross. And yeah, and then so he escapes whatever, and he starts leaking the names of like all these secret agents and their identities in jeopardy. And he says, you know, I'm gonna release like 5 a week. So basically James and go up to somewhere called Skyfall, and it's basically where James Bond grew up, and there's a sort of, you know, like hint of past of whatever happened up there. And they meet this old like ground taker, he's like Hagrid sort of thing, a groundkeeper, and they set up a trap in this house and they lay like a breadcrumb trail. I don't know what you call it, a trail for the evil guys to sniff them out sort of thing. And then he basically sniffs them out, and the house blows up, and all his men kind of die. But then you see him facing off against M and James and the groundkeeper. M basically dies of a wound she's got. The evil guy dies because James stabs him in the back, and the groundkeeper, he lives. James obviously lives. M dies, and then someone else gets appointed. The woman who shot James at the beginning accidentally gets appointed to the head of sort of secret mission giving whatever, and then the film ends. So yeah, it's not a very complicated movie at all. It's actually very, very simple. The characters in this movie, obviously you have James Bond. He's, you know, your stereotypical middle-aged, attractive, white, cisexual male. There's nothing, you know, variety in there whatsoever. But I was very pleased that one of the sort of implied love interests was a woman of African descent. That I thought that was really new, and it was interesting to see that. I liked her character as well. She wasn't very good at field work. But the thing is with James Bond films, I like the fact that they always acknowledge the character's flaws. They don't try and iron them out and make them perfect. They don't try and Hollywoodize them, I don't feel. So she was obviously not very good at doing field work, but it was implied that she was very good at doing, you know, office work. So her character strengths lie in there. She was obviously a very appealing character. She was a very appealing woman, and some of the lines I felt from her were kind of a bit tacky, a bit cheesy, but whatever. And, you know, obviously James was kind of cheesy fling, whatever, as well. One of the things that irritate me about James Bond's character, and it always has irritated me about his character, is he's cast as a sort of like, the woman in the refrigerator archetype, where basically in order to progress and to give sort of like depth to the main male protagonist, a female character dies, and his pain is shown through that as an avenue through that, and he's meant to be, eternally damned, and he's got this complex, and he's, he struggles and blah blah blah, and he's dark and mysterious, and honestly I'm really tired of that whole portrayal. Honestly, I think it would be so funny if he was, if he had flaws. He doesn't really seem to have flaws. I mean, we never hear about what happens to any of his, conquests. We never hear about his past, and in this film, yeah, we do see a glimpse of his past, but it's only there to make him seem more troubled and like mysterious and whatever. I didn't really buy into that, and I was like, whatever. Then you have I really do like I think she's a good solid character. She doesn't really take any nonsense, and yeah, so that's good. And which other characters? They're really like the main characters. Oh no, the guy, obviously the evil guy, he was interesting. I think he was a bit of a stereotype though. He was a bit too crazy for me. I don't really think, obviously I never met someone like him before. I'm not gonna say people that don't exist, but I think he was a bit like over the top. It was really over dramatic and overacted for me. Then you have James's sort of sidekick called Q. He's like a computer genius. I liked him. Again, I thought it's a bit of a stereotype that he was this, this young nerdy kid who designs all these like complex computer systems, and he's super clever, whatever. So the action in this film, there wasn't really much. Well, obviously there is a lot of it, but if you want something like a bang for your buck, go and see Taken 2. Definitely go and see Taken 2. It's much cooler, I feel. This one, yeah, there's fighting, there's whatever, blah blah, but it's nothing that you haven't seen from a James Bond film before. I wouldn't really pay to see this again personally, but of course that's your own opinion. Things that I did like about this, I love the opening credits. Opening credits were really great. James Bond has always had stellar opening credits, and of course Adele did the song, and I knew about this before I was on YouTube and it came up, and I was like, oh cool, that's pretty cool. It was a good way to promote it. And what a note to make actually is that the adverts before the movie were all, for like perfume, watches, cars, and they all had Daniel Craig in them, like James Bond related, and I thought that was a bit tacky, like, of course it's a good business strategy and everything, but I was like, okay, whatever, it's a bit of an overkill. So yeah, Daniel Craig was beautiful in this movie. I was drooling. Okay, I know there was that sort of like homosexual implication there, and obviously the evil guy was kind of not very attractive, but the fact, it was just the way that James's face, that Daniel Craig's face was in that scene when he was like, oh, maybe it's not my first time. I was dying on the inside because it was just so hot the way he said it. Was, oh my goodness. But yeah, the music's good, the pacing's good, the story's not overly complex, but I think there wasn't really much depth to it. They tried to make it deep, I feel, by having James be this tortured soul, but it really didn't work for me. I've seen it 1,000 times before. I think it's a very cheap tactic to use nowadays, so I wasn't really impressed by it. What else? Oh yeah, some of the shots were really, really beautiful. For example, when M was writing his obituary, that scene in which, the backdrop of London is really dark, but the rain's pattering, and it's just really nice. And some of, where Skyfall is, that was a gorgeous shot. It was just so beautiful. It was so desolate. And I love the house. I think stylistically it's very classic James Bond, and it's good to see that coming back. But I feel that overall they could have put a bit more action into it, a bit more fighting, instead of having him just be this character who knows how to get around. We don't really see how and why he's so clever. He just happens to be so, he happens to do something, and we never see like his thought process behind it, whereas in Taken 2 we really do go there. So yeah, overall, I wouldn't pay to see this movie again. I give it probably a 6.5 and a 7 out of 10. Go and see it if you want an action film, but honestly, overall, just go and see Taken 2 instead because it's better acting and better action and it's more bang for your buck. So thanks for listening and goodbye.